Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Troy Stevenson.
Buddy. Well, thank you everybody for coming out this morning. We appreciate it. It's a hot day. We're trying to keep it nice and cool with the AC on. Let's give a round to the church for letting us borrow this facility. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. Colonel Harrington, where are you, sir? I'm waiting for the colonel to come here. Give me 1 second. Well, there you go. Colonel, can you come up here, please? The colonel is going to open us up in pledge and prayer today. Let's give him a round. He's been with the sheriff's office for, wow, many, many moons. Colonel, will you be kind enough to start us out with the pledge and prayer?
I would. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand and face the flag and remain standing, please. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would just remain standing, please, and bow your heads. Dear Lord, please give our elected officials the steadfastness, the resolve to be faithful to your teachings and make sure that they endeavor to do the right thing in the right way for the right reason each and every day. Please bless the men and women in our gathering today so that we may be able to keep Florida and Pasco County safe and free. And if you would, please bless the men and women of our military, the sheriff's office, law enforcement, and our paramedics and firefighters throughout Pasco County. Thank you. Please be seated. So good morning. It is my good fortune to be able to introduce our first speaker today. And over the course of the last 15 years, our first speaker has earned our trust. He's earned our trust in his words and in his deeds. And he has done so on a regular basis with great consistency. He's a man of faith, of patriotism, of family. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our sheriff of 15 years and the next senator from District 21, Christopher Nocco.
Thank you all very much. As Jeff mentioned, thank God Almighty for his loving protection over everybody. And it's amazing what God can do in everybody's life. I also want a big round of applause for all the deputies out there protecting us right now. I will tell you, sadly, over the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of call-outs and being out there, and I will tell you the amount of time that they take away from their families and the sacrifices they make that are often forgotten, but not in this community. So I truly appreciate it. And to Jeff, he's been a dear friend for many years. He's absolutely going to be the best leader for this sheriff's office, and God willing, Governor DeSantis appoints him, and I will be with him 1,000%. So many of you may know, not know, you can tell by my accent I'm from up north, like many of you. Who's from up north? Good. Oh, we got it. Except for Commissioner Simpson. Commissioner Gus. So I'll tell you a very quick story about this. So I don't know if you two remember, we were in Beacon Woods. I was with the congressman and commissioner many years ago. And we were at a town hall meeting, and people were asking questions about different things. This is back in like 2014, 2015. So of course, and I say this as a proud Philadelphian, but I'm actually a more proud Floridian. There was a guy from New York, and he's like, New York does this, New York does that. So those two gentlemen were being very professional. But I could say this because I'm from up there in that area. I said, well, let me just tell you, if New York is so great, move back. And they look at me and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, but it's the truth. If it's great, move back. And like, we came to Florida for a reason, to make it better. And so I will tell you another story. As you may know, I went to the University of Delaware. And so at the University of Delaware, I will tell you, during that time, the name Joe Biden was like, oh, it's Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Like you in the football stands, you would look up and Joe Biden was there. Ironically, who was right next to him was Chris Christie. We didn't know at the time. But Biden at the time was Mr. Blue Dog Democrat, Mr. I take pictures with the police, I support law enforcement, I'm with the firefighters. And so it was ironic when he ran for president, he ran on that same platform. I'm going to be a moderate. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to support public safety. He did it from his garage and his basement. And we're fortunate that in Florida we don't have basements. So candidates actually have to get out and like stand forward and do stuff. So I'll never forget that. But what happened when he got in office? The left, the Democrats are beholden to the far left progressives now. They absolutely will do whatever the far left progressives say. And I will say this as a law enforcement officer. You see it. In Florida, did we have people blocking the streets and protesting? No. But did you see across the country how many times people would stand out there and block in Democrat states and Democrat cities? And those leaders said, that's okay, we're going to allow that to happen. It was horrible. Defund the police movement never happened in the state. Governor DeSantis, when Senator Simpson was the president, they always stood up. We had great leaders like Brad Yeager, representative in Tallahassee, that made sure that the law enforcement was protected, we were funded, we were able to do our jobs. It was much different than Biden when he was president. We actually had to be protected from the president of the United States, which is absolutely crazy. Then you saw bail reform in New York City and everywhere else where they said, you know, they actually started treating criminals like the victims and victims like criminals. It was absolutely horrible. And that's why I say, every time there's somebody who's running for office now who says, I'm a moderate Democrat, you can't believe it because their actions are way different than what their motives are. And they're beholden to the far left. And I will tell you, to me, this is beyond law enforcement, this is beyond anything. This is human rights. When a girl cannot play sports to compete against other girls, and they're being forced to play against men, there is an absolute issue in society. That is not the way it's supposed to be. So if we say we're empowering women, we're protecting women, why don't we protect young girls too? Why don't we stand up for them? And that's unfortunately what you see from the far left. They will do everything they can for their own agenda, and they don't care about our daughters, our granddaughters playing sports. They care more about that somebody may look like Shaquille O'Neal going out there and saying, I'm a girl today, and they're going to run them over. It is absolutely horrendous. So that's why we say we have decisions. And it's very important. I will tell you, this primary right now, we got to get out the vote. You have to make sure we vote to send a message. But what's more important is November. In November, we got to make sure we got to get everybody out there. Congressman Bill Arakis, in his district, they moved him around a little bit. He's back now to Hillsborough. Pasco County has to carry Gus. I tell everybody that now. We have to make sure that we carry Gus. Commissioner Simpson, he has a primary right now. And now he's then going to have a general. But that's the one thing you have to remember, is that the far left is going to try to take out Commissioner Simpson too, and we can't allow it. And more importantly, we have Byron Donalds, the governor's office. They are absolutely going to run a candidate that is going to be Joe Biden 2.0. He is going to go around the state and he's going to tell everybody how he used to be a Republican and he's moderate and everything's going to be okay. But we all know the story because it played out over 4 horrific years in this country. A moderate who says they're going to run for office and be a moderate turns out to be a left-wing, liberal, horrific leader who will go after our law enforcement, who will go after our young girls playing sports, and will go after every one of you to raise your taxes. So we have to do one thing. Make sure we spread the word. Make sure that everybody gets off the fence, everybody gets off the yellow in the center of the road, and they pick a side. And they pick the side that's going to be best for the state of Florida. So with that, I want to bring up a leader who's not only a leader, but a dear friend, who I, from the bottom of my heart, call Mr. Pasco. Because in Pasco County, if you ever want to see somebody who has made such an impact, such a growth in our community, who actually was the one who started bringing jobs here, is Commissioner Simpson. And so even as our agricultural commissioner, he's put Pasco as the center, but he's across the entire state. He's made us better, and he's going to continue to do so. So with that, I want to bring up Mr. Pasco, Wilson Simpson.
Good morning. I always like to start these off with is, leadership matters. And if you don't think leadership matters, I like to compare our state of 23 million people to the state of New York with 19.5 million people. Those are the two states that are the closest in size. One has had conservative leadership for the last 25 years, and one is in a very sad state of liberalism, even as we speak here today. But I'm going to give you some comparisons because I think this is important. These are the things we're actually fighting over, and it's our future. It's this young lady down here's grandchildren are going to, if we're going to have a quality of Florida of the same quality we have had during our lifetimes, there's some things that we have to make sure that we're the best at. Number one, our budget and our balance sheet here in the state of Florida. And I'm going to compare it to New York's. So the state of New York, this year, their budget was $280 billion. That's how much taxes they extract from their 19.5 million people to run their state. The state of Florida's is $116 billion, way less than half of their budget. We remember we have 23.5 million people. When you look at their debt, they have over $180 billion of debt. We have less than $8 billion of debt. And that didn't come easy. It didn't come easy. If you go back to 2010, we had about $25 billion of debt at the peak of the Great Recession. In 2018, when Governor DeSantis took over, we had $17 billion of debt. And we've paid down that much debt down to less than $8 billion. And by the way, when we were paying that debt down, we had essentially a $1 trillion economy. Today, we have a $1.9 trillion economy. You're the lowest tax state in the entire union. You're the lowest debt state in the entire union. And when I left as Senate President, we had $22 billion in reserves. That was 4 times as high as it had ever been in the state of Florida. We're very proud of those statistics. When you think about emergencies that we can have in the state of Florida, and the biggest one that we have is hurricanes. We were blessed last year not to have them. I think the legislature banned hurricanes again this year, so hopefully we'll have, maybe we're back to back again, and with no hurricanes. But the reality is when you have $22 billion in reserves and you have a hurricane, you can respond the way that we respond today. You say, well, how'd you fix those 2 bridges in a matter of just a few days back when Ian hit and took those bridges out? We knew it was going to cost $150 million to do it, but because we had that amount of reserves, we could react in real time. We didn't have to wait on the federal government to help us. And now, and again, in all those cleanups, it costs about $1 billion between the size of the hurricane, between $1 billion and $1.5 billion to clean up after a hurricane. We may not get reimbursed that money for 6 to 10 years in most cases. If you have $22 billion in the bank, you can make different decisions than if you had $5 or $6 billion in the bank. And so our governor's done a great job. Unfortunately, he's had to do a lot of great jobs in cleaning up after hurricanes because we've had quite a few in the last 8 years as his governorship. But in the state of Florida, what do you get for all of those things? And I always like to quote the great philosopher Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. That's exactly right. And so what do we do right in the state of Florida? What are we the best at? First of all, we have universal school choice in the state. Largest state in the union to have universal school choice. Think of New York's education system now, the K-12 there, for what they get for paying 2.5 times more taxes than we do. We have the best university and college system in the entire country 10 years in a row by World News Report. We have the lowest tuition in the entire country for our universities and the best outcomes. Think about that for a second. In the state of Florida, you remember during COVID, I was your Senate President during COVID 2022, and obviously we managed the state much differently during COVID than many of those other liberal states we're talking about. Yes, we kept our businesses open. You could go to church. You could raise your family. We certainly were not going to allow bureaucrats to mask our children. We did many, many things during that time that we could be very proud of. And look at the consequences of liberal leadership. Those children that were locked out of school for 18 months in some cases or more, they'll never get to recover from that. They'll never recover. They've reduced what those children can ultimately be with their education system. We know by third grade, if you're not at a certain level, you can't recover. And they locked those kids out for, in some cases, 18 months. And it was ridiculous. And I won't get into what Fauci and all of them did at that time. That's too easy. But the reality is that during COVID, we also had a lot of peaceful protests going on. Remember on CNN when you'd watch the peaceful protests with all the buildings burning down? We took a different approach here in the state of Florida, right? We said we're going to back our law enforcement here in the state of Florida. If you hurl a If you hurl a water bottle at one of our law enforcement officers or a brick, or you throw it through somebody's window, you're going to spend time in jail. There's no question about that. During that time, we did $5,000 bonuses for any law enforcement anywhere in the country that wanted to move to the free state of Florida. Yes, and by the way, in New York on New Year's Day, it was on the big billboard, move to Florida, $5,000 bonus for law enforcement. Another comparison, 6 months ago approximately, the governor celebrated giving out the 10,000th $5,000 bonus. We're number one in business formation in this state. We're the best place to raise. Where else would you raise a family today than the state of Florida? And I was in Texas a few months ago, and we were talking about even roads. And I said, we're the best at all of these categories. I said, well, look, Texas makes a good runner-up, right? Nothing wrong with silver for those guys. They disagree with that, by the way, but whatever. And I said, well, even our roads are better than your roads. And you said, well, you can't even claim that. By the way, we spend about $16 billion of your tax dollars every year on roads and infrastructure here in the state of Florida trying to catch up. And they said, well, you can't claim that. And I said, well, sure we can. I said, I've been driving around on your roads for 2 days. I wouldn't trade you any of our roads for any of our roads. And so anyways, they get a big kick out of that. But but Texas is a good number two, I've told them. And think about today's election climate and the vitriol that's in the systems that we have today. Think about New York's leader now, Mandani, right? He's there. The Florida Chamber yesterday awarded him the best business creator in the state of Florida. Yeah. If you defund your police, if you have, no bail, bailless, they let everyone out, criminals out, want to defund the police, those sane citizens and business owners are going to come to the state of Florida. And of course, we remember back to the Rick Scott time, the job governor, and he did an amazing job there with the formations. And I could continue on and on about what Florida has done to really make us a leader in business formation and parental freedoms. You have in this school, in this year, you get to raise your children the way you want to, send them to the school you want to send them to with our school choice. You have all those freedoms in the state of Florida, but we can't take it for granted, right? We're going to have another opportunity, right? Governor DeSantis can't run again. We're going to have another opportunity to elect another great conservative to be the governor. The next governor of the state of Florida will pay the debt off of the state of Florida. We'll have no debt after the next, if we have a conservative leader. We will continue to have, by the way, the best law enforcement anywhere in the country, right, with the right leader. We will continue to have universal school choice as a state. And the leader that we're going to get that done with is with Byron Donalds. He's going to make a great leader. And I'll just give you one more example before I introduce Gus, but Andrew Gillum that ran against Governor DeSantis 8 years ago. Governor DeSantis beat him by 30,000 votes-ish. Think about the difference with 30,000 votes made 8 years ago with all the things I just mentioned. Gillum is currently in a jail in Alabama. And think about that for just a second. And those are real things. That's not vitriol. That's not hate. That's just telling the truth. The facts are undisputable of the difference in leadership as you have conservatives versus liberals. And we're all about conservatives and great leadership and teams. Now, the next gentleman that I'm going to invite up has been a dear friend for many, many years. He and his dad, Gus Bilirakis, has served us in Congress 20 years, did you say? 20 years. Which is unbelievable because it seems like yesterday. And his dad was such a great congressman, and he served Pasco well for all of these years. And if you know anything about Gus, I always pick on him and say, Gus is for us. That's sort of his tagline. But Gus is for the troops of this country and the veterans of this country. There's no better champion. Gus will explain this much better, but the things he does with our veterans and our VAs is really amazing. In Washington, where nothing gets done, Gus is one of the most productive members you could have anywhere in Congress. We're very, very proud to have him here. Let's give Gus a big Pasco welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Wilton's a great friend, and I'm going to go even further and call him Mr. Florida, because he is an amazing person, a man of substance, a man of substance. And I will also tell you, probably next to my father, probably the best public servant we've ever had in the state of Florida. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That's true, and that's saying a lot, because we've had some great leaders in the state of Florida, thank goodness. And this guy here, the best sheriff in the United States. And he's going to make, you know, he does his job, and he does his job very well, but he also cares. He cares for the people. He can identify with the people, and that makes a great public servant. And even with the kids, you know, he can speak to their level. And Sheriff, I want to tell you, I'm going to work with you on getting these synthetics out of the gas stations, because it's killing our kids. The kratom, the marijuana, and they package them as in attractive packages. I've already filed a bill to do that, and Ashley Moody is going to help me in the Senate, Sheriff, but I got to help you with that. And in addition to that, I want to work with you on these state issues. You're going to be an outstanding state senator. You really are. Well, so I talked about that, and people ask me why I'm wearing the purple jacket. First of all, people tell me it looks good, but more importantly, I wear it for Alzheimer's research and Parkinson's research. As you know, it's very close to my heart. My dad has Parkinson's. My brother died from the Parkinson's symptoms, and of course my mom has Alzheimer's. And I want to tell you that my father loves you and always will love you, and he loved representing this wonderful county. There's no question. And Byron, I don't know if Byron's here yet, but let me just tell you, Byron, these are the most wonderful people you'll ever experience. And they're going to save us. Now, you know, with the redistricting as well, they took away, and I'm not going to talk too long because I know you want to hear from the main speaker tonight, but they took me away from 2 red counties up north, as you know, Hernando and Citrus County, but thank God we kept Pasco County. Thank God. And folks, and now I'll have quite a bit of Hillsborough County, so I have a lot of work to do in introducing myself to those wonderful people as well. But Pasco is going to put us over the top. And I'm not talking about just for me, but I'm talking about for Wilton, and we're talking about this for this great sheriff, which will be a great state senator. Folks, it's not our opponents as much, even though we have a bunch of crazy communists. They're not socialists, they're communists around the country. They truly are. And Wilton is right, and again, Chris is right as well. Even if they call themselves moderate Democrats, whatever, some of them might say that they are, like Jolly's going to say he is, what have you. They're going to vote like communists up there, okay? Whether it's in Florida, and we have a wonderful state, and now I'll say, don't New York or Florida for crying out loud. That's why you moved here, right? So, without further ado, let me get into because I can talk forever, and you don't want to hear it. You want to hear from the main man tonight. Again, I stand shoulder to shoulder. Well, not quite. Not quite. But I stand with Byron Donalds, and I will tell you why. I've worked with him, and I see what he does behind the scenes. He's a policy guy. He wants to get comfortable with legislation before he votes for it. And also, he represents quite a few people in Congress that depend on him, on getting all the information that they need to be comfortable and make an America First vote. So I give him a lot of credit. And that's behind the scenes, so you don't really see that. But I see it. Again, he's a policy guy. He tries to do the right thing as opposed to the politically expedient thing. He's a true conservative, America First. Again, a great supporter of our great president, Donald J. Trump, and that's so very important to me. Wilton mentioned education reform, school choice. That's what it's all about. We have great universities and great K through 12. Pasco got an A this year because we have the best superintendent of the schools in John Legg. There's no question. So veterans are number one. They're my top priority in the United States Congress, and Byron has been working with me on those issues. So without further ado, I can't see. I can't see with a damn, but I hear he's in the room. So without further ado, I'll introduce the next governor of the great state of Florida, Byron Donalds.
Pasco County, good morning. How's everybody doing? First of all, Gus, my friend, we're a shoulder to shoulder, Gus and I. My friend, I want everybody to get a good picture of this. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's a University of Florida Gator and a Florida State Seminole. So we all agree that he should be governor.
I want you to repeat that to every Florida Gator in the entire state, Gus. That's amazing. From a Seminole to be endorsed by a, for a Seminole to be endorsed by a Gator.
That's because we love our state of Florida, that's why.
That's right.
That's right.
I mean, Gus, you might as well come on back. You got more to go. You remember the dinner we did a couple of weeks ago? You remember the dinner? Come on, Gus.
Yeah.
Come on.
What are we doing?
You're going back.
What am I saying?
Whatever you want.
Go Gators.
Okay, now you're done. Goodbye, Gus Bilirakis. We love you. Ladies and gentlemen, Gus Bilirakis, he is doing a great job in Washington, D.C. Oh, my gosh. How you doing, my friend? Good seeing you. Sheriff Nacco, you're doing you're going to make a great state senator. A great state senator. And I already know this is how these things work. I know these things kind of happen in the background a little bit. You have a great role model about what it is to be in the Florida Senate with our Ag Commissioner and former Senate President Wilton Simpson. Great role model. Wilton got a lot of stuff done when he was in the Senate, a lot. I was in the House, and sometimes stuff will come back to the Florida House, and you'd be like, man, Wilton's on this one too? Like, how do you get this one in? So that's how it works, but we're looking forward to working with you. You're gonna be great, and I stress you're gonna be great. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the road to the primary election. In 6 days, the people of Florida are going to decide the Republican nominee for governor. Who's voted? Well, I mean, look, this is kind of like a fun rally today. Everybody's already, most people already, who has to vote? Seriously, quick show of hands. Still has to vote. Okay, well, look, here's the deal. Here's what we want to make sure we get communicated today. We are focused on one thing, and that is defending the Florida dream. The Florida dream is what has brought so many people to our state. When I moved to Florida 30 years ago, I think the state population was around maybe 8.5, 9 million people at the time. We're now 23.5 million people make Florida their home. They chose Florida to be their home. And the reason why, in part, is because of the great leadership of our sheriffs, like Sheriff Naco and all the great sheriffs here in the great state of Florida. It's also the leadership of our police chiefs and the officers that serve this community and every single day. It's our firefighters and our emergency personnel who sometimes their shifts are 24 hours on, 48 hours off, but those 24 hours on, they are locked in and serving this community. And it's because our government has always been focused on common sense conservative policy, not the crazy idiocy from New York and Connecticut and Illinois. That's why people choose the Florida dream. You know, I remember during COVID-19 when Governor DeSantis reopened our state, when he looked Dr. Fauci and the public health establishment in the eye and said, well, I read the information too, and we're opening up. And they criticized Ron DeSantis. But the people of Florida stood by our governor, and he led us through that time. And a funny thing happened. People from other states said, you know what? I'm sick of where I live. Florida's doing it right, and I want to be a part of that. When I was in the Villages 5 months ago, there was a World War II vet that was there. And he said to me, Byron, you tell people all across Florida as you campaign, you tell them that people aren't just buying a home. They're not just coming for the beaches. They are enjoying the way of life in Florida. When people were coming to our state from all parts of the Northeast, a lot of Republicans, we were very concerned. You remember those days, Wilton? We were concerned. We were like, well, we're glad they're coming, but how are they going to vote? And over that time, as a party and as a conservative movement, we have gone from being down 300,000 registered voters to the Democrats to now being up over 1.5 million voters in the state of Florida to the Democrats. And that has been to the credit of our Governor Ron DeSantis and his leadership here in Florida, to Ag Commissioner Wilton Simpson, to Sheriff Chris Naco, and so many people that love this state, serve this state, and make sure that the Florida dream is alive and well. The reason why I talk so much about this is because every 8 years or so, we come to these decisions about who's going to lead Florida next. I remember the conversations 8 years ago when then Congressman DeSantis was running to become Governor DeSantis. And the biggest question amongst conservatives all through Florida was, I've not really heard that much of him, but can he get the job done? Let me tell you why he got the job done. He got the job done because, yes, he served our nation admirably in the military, but he was and still is a constitutionalist committed to the principles of human liberty and human flourishing. The same principles that our framers always supported and wanted to see when they created the United States Constitution, the very best governing document ever assembled in the history of mankind. And it's that vision and it's that mindset that has allowed for Florida to continue to thrive and flourish. And now, 8 years later, Floridians are going to have to answer that same question again. Is the next congressman ready to lead Florida? And let me tell you this, I chose to be a conservative. I chose it. Growing up in New York City, you don't think much about politics at all. As a young man, didn't think much about politics at all. But when our nation's economy in 2008 was falling flat on its back, and I was in my business career, I spent 17 years in the financial industry. And during that time, I had to research for my insurance firm what was going on in America's economy. And when I turned on the House Financial Services Committee back in 2008, this is the first time I've ever watched anything political. I turned on the committee and I said to myself what President Trump said in 2015. These people are stupid and they don't know what they're doing. I said the same thing to myself. And I remember watching this hearing and I was dumbfounded. Here I am, a young guy, 29 years old, in my career, looking for answers from our leaders and seeing the same old scripts, the same finger pointing, no concrete policy. And it pissed me off. And from there, I started watching politics for the first time in my life. I remember in 2009, a Tea Party rally popped up. You guys remember all those, right? Everybody remember when Rick Santelli went on CNBC early one morning and said, if they're going to bail out the banks, then you might as well back up all the tea because it's time for a tea party, folks. And then all across America, the Tea Party rallies popped up because we didn't want bank bailouts. And we wanted to actually respect our Constitution. We didn't want a government that was going to get out of control. And I heard one of those rallies was in my community, so I went. And what I saw were people who were just as concerned about this nation as I was. In those early days, I would talk to little different Tea Partiers in Naples, Florida. And they recommended books to me, and I read several of them. One of them was The Law by Frederick Bastiat. It's the first book on politics I ever read. But it wasn't about Republicans versus Democrats. It wasn't about liberals versus conservatives. It was about the purpose of law and why the foundation of our law has to be consistent in order for people to thrive. I went from that to reading John Locke and Montesquieu. I went from that to listening to talk radio and really starting to understand the principles of conservatism. Anybody remember back in the day? I get to say that now. I get to say back in the day. I know I don't look it, but I'm 47, I promise you that. 1978 was a great year. It's a great year. But back then, you actually could really do debates in Facebook. Remember those? I did that. A lot of debates, a lot of them. And I'm going back and forth with friends from high school, friends from college, talking about politics, talking about policy, always from a conservative worldview. And some of the people who knew me in high school, they're like, what happened? And I told them, I started paying attention. And I started thinking about these policies, not thinking through them, understanding the pillars of this country and why it is unique and why it is special and why it is exceptional. From there, I became a leader in the Tea Party movement in Naples, Florida. I served on the board. I gave my first speech in the back of a pickup truck on US 41 in Pine Ridge Road in Naples. By the way, the speech is still there. And the speech is still great. It was a great one. It was really good. It was early on. I've always been a conservative because I chose to be a conservative. When I served in the State House for 4 years, I had one of the most conservative voting records in Tallahassee. And in Washington, D.C., that has not changed. One of the most conservative voting records in all of America. There is a reason why, when the time had come to be on the trail supporting President Trump to defeat the radical left, there is a reason that they asked me to be out there. And that's because I told my congressional district in Southwest Florida that yes, I'm going to vote right. And yes, I'm going to represent your interests. But I'm also going to spread the principles of conservatism and liberty across this country. Because the fight for human liberty is never over. The battle is actually fought every 2 years at the ballot box here in the United States of America. And so if you want to know if the next congressman is prepared to lead Florida, I would tell you, ask Heritage Action, 100%. Ask Numbers USA, 100%. Ask the Club for Growth, 100%. You go find the listing that ranks members, I'm either a 100% or a 95. And that's not because we're watching the board on how other members are voting. It's because I do believe that limited government and low taxes and government restraint and common sense policy and conservative principles are the thing that allow societies and allow people to thrive. So in 6 days, Republicans are going to choose their nominee. Wilton, we're going to do good in 6 days. We're going to do pretty good in 6 days. But this message is more of a message to Republicans all through the state of Florida. When these 6 days are over, we become one party and we become one movement, because once again, we have to go to the polls to make sure that we keep Florida the free state of Florida. We have a lot of issues that we have to work on. We've done a great job in this state, led by Governor DeSantis, but there's still more work to do. Insurance, doesn't matter what part of Florida you're in, everybody, it's on their mind. The legislature and the governor did great work on tort reform. We're going to keep that in place, but we also have to reform Florida's insurance markets from the regulatory side. I've worked in the private sector for 17 years. By the way, I'm the only person running for governor that's worked in the private sector, the only one. But more than that, when I was in the Florida House, I chaired the Insurance and Banking Subcommittee. So I'm not having to wait for a lobbyist to tell me if these are good ideas to reform our CAT fund and to reform some of the regulatory pieces. We already know it. We're going to get that done. And we, looking at the numbers, we can push down the cost of property and casualty insurance in our state another 20 to 25%, because the people of Florida need relief. When it comes to property taxes, that's in your hands. You will decide what happens this November. But I'm here to tell you, whether it passes or whether it fails, we are going to study all taxes and fees in our state with the goal of eliminating homestead property taxes for Floridians once and for all. And if we can't get there, we are going to focus our relief on senior housing. We have to be honest with ourselves. 2 years to put a shovel in the ground, because that 2 years is not free. Those 2 years are expensive. And anybody that's been in business knows that time is money and money costs. And today, money costs a lot. So we have to be focused as a government to make sure that we modernize these timelines, we shrink them down, because every day that is wasted on government process is a day that makes the cost of housing more expensive, especially for the young people and the young families who are trying to build the Florida dream for themselves. We have to manage growth. I'm not telling Pasco County something it doesn't already know. Here's the truth. People are coming to Florida because they can't take the idiocy of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Minnesota, Washington State, Oregon, California. I mean, Wilton, it sounds like I'm talking about half of America, but they chose these Democrats that ran those states into the ground. And they're coming to Florida for relief and a chance at the Florida dream. And so we got to balance that growth. I'm always going to tell you the truth. We can't build a wall between Florida and Georgia. I know the Florida Gators wish that we could, to keep them Bulldogs up in Georgia. But we can't build a wall. What we have to do is have a strategy for how we maintain the quality of life in Florida, while knowing that other Americans are going to want to choose Florida as their home. That plan is not just about roads, but it's also about power. Power generation. How do we keep electric bills low? You do that by adding baseload power to your grid. That's how you do it. About fresh drinking water, protecting our aquifers, making sure there's fresh drinking water, not just for Floridians today, but Floridians into the future. And by the way, while I'm on the topic of power and water, let's just get this out in the open. Data centers. Let's get it out in the open. It is law today in the state of Florida. It was just signed by Governor DeSantis that your electric bills will not go up in the state of Florida because of a hyperscale data center. That is the law. And as your governor, that law will not change. We are going to protect the utility bills of the people of Florida. Number two, under the bill, under the law now, Senate Bill 484, go look it up. Everybody online, go look at Senate Bill 484. Under that piece of legislation, which is now law in Florida, any hyperscale data center has to get a consumptive use permit. Now let me explain what has to get a consumptive use permit in our state. Any planned unit development, gated community, they have to get consumptive use permits for water. Any industry that bottles beverages in our state, we have one or two that bottle water and sell it back to you. Happens in Florida. They have to get a consumptive use permit. Anybody here like to play golf? Any golfers in the room? We got two? Man, I don't know what they're doing on the PGA. You're losing people, man. 3. Every golf course in Florida has to get a consumptive use permit for water. We've been issuing these use permits in our state for decades now because protecting our aquifer is critical to the future of our state. So we are going to make sure that those protections remain. 2 other ones we want to see. Proximity. I don't want it next to your house, just like I don't want it next to mine. That's important to the people of Florida. And the last one is what happens on the site. We want to see these data centers have a closed loop system. What does that mean? Think of your pool for a moment. Everybody remember you filling your pool that first month and seeing your water bill? And your eyes popped out? You were like, oh, geez, did I really need this pool? But then your pool pump recycles the water month in, month out. And so you might get a little bit of extra water because of evaporation. It is Florida. But largely, you're not using that much water anymore to keep your pool full. The same technology exists today for these data centers. In Florida, they have to use a closed loop system. That's what we want to see happen. And if they can air cool them, then fine, air cool them. Don't use our water to do it, or we want to make sure there are very clear restrictions to limit the water usage. So when I talked earlier about how you balance and manage growth, it's about having a strategy to execute it. And those are the things that we're going to do in our state. Because balancing growth protects our beauty. Wilton and I have talked much about the wildlife corridor in Florida. Protecting the conservation areas for our panthers, for our black bears, for so much of Florida's wildlife, so much of Florida's beauty. We are going to protect that because a Florida that doesn't have beauty in a beautiful natural environment is a Florida that cannot grow into the future. So we have to bring balance to both. It's about making sure we keep our ag lands in production. We've talked about buying development rights for family farms so they can keep those orange groves in production, keep the strawberry fields and the blueberry fields in production, because we have to be able to feed ourselves as a state. And Florida has the distinct responsibility of feeding half of America when it gets cold. So these are the balance effects that we are going to have to bring in. I know what people are saying out there on the campaign trail. They're saying, I'm going to ban this and I'm going to get rid of that. Some of them are saying, I'm going to turn back the clock to 1972. Now, I don't know about you. Some of us in this room, we would love to turn the clock back to 72. Your knees were working better, your hips were working better, your shoulders were working better. We would love to do that. But that's great for an infomercial at 12 o'clock at night. That's not reality. That's not the truth. The truth is, to preserve and defend the Florida dream, we have to plan for Florida's future and execute that plan where we balance all these things. I live in Southwest Florida. I live in Naples. 12 years ago, we had blue-green algae blooms on our coast. It devastated the local economy because our environment couldn't keep pace. And out of that, the legislature, Rick Scott started the first project. Governor DeSantis put it into hyperdrive. We got about the business of restoring the Central Everglades system once and for all. We're going to finish that work in my time as governor. We're going to get that work done. And when we're done with that, we're going to be focused on the freshwater lakes in North Florida. We're going to be focused on the water treatment systems in our state that are long overdue for updates and modernization. Why? Because if we don't manage our environment and our water, we're not going to have anything as a state. So I wanted you to hear that from me, because I know a lot gets said on social media. Yeah, a lot of stuff gets said a lot of places these days. But I wanted you to hear it from me. Yeah, it is fake news, I know. But I wanted you to hear it from me. Because as we talk about what it's going to take to manage our state, to keep our state red, to make sure that we plan for the future, the governor has to have real strategies and detailed plans to accomplish this stuff. And these aren't, listen, if I could show you a picture of this podium or turn it around, there are no notes here. I'm not reading the script. These are the conversations I have been having with Floridians all through this state for the last 2 years about where are we today and how do we keep winning into the future. And the last piece of us winning comes with our economy and comes with our kids. Our economy is going to grow because people are choosing Florida. We are becoming the financial capital of the Western Hemisphere. Part of it is because people want to be in our state. The other part is Zoran Mamdani's in New York City. And common sense business people want out. I don't know if y'all saw this, the Florida Chamber put a billboard up in Times Square, and they called Mamdani the Florida, the Florida Economic Developer of the Year, the #1 economic developer for Florida. That guy is so stupid. That guy is really dumb. But folks, when you have a state that makes sense, people want to be a part of that. I'll give you another. Drone technology and manufacturing. There are companies that want to manufacture drones and test drones in our state. Now, that's just not for a company. That's also jobs for young kids that are sitting in the front row. Yeah, you too. They looked at each other like us. We're like 5. We got a job already? Time flies. Watch out. It happens. But these are not just jobs for engineers and scientists. These are jobs for machinists and for contractors and for welders. That's what these jobs are. There's a reason why in K-12 education, we want to build a world-class system for our kids. And not just a rocket ship, no pun intended, not just a rocket ship to the university system. I love Florida State. Gus loves the University of Florida. We battle it out for 60 minutes during football season. And that's okay. But this is about making sure that our kids have multiple pathways for success. If they're not going to the university system, that's okay. Let's make sure they have the apprenticeships they need and the internships they need so when they graduate high school, they can put food on the table. Because for all the talk about affordability, and yes, people are being crushed, the #1 way you help to afford a place is you put food on the table and you have a high-paying job. That's the #1 way we do this. And so building the Florida dream is making sure that our young people, our kids, yes, you too, that our kids, that they have a real shot to build that dream for themselves. And I'm not just saying that as a candidate for governor. I'm saying it as a father. I don't know if you saw my sons recently on TV. The question, how many times did I have to shoot it to make the shot?
Were they your sons?
They are my sons. Oh, yeah. DNA confirmed it. They are mine. I'm just kidding. My wife is like, what? You did DNA on? No. Watch that get clipped and tossed somewhere on the internet. Watch that one. 2 shots. Took 2 times to make the basket. Seriously, The old man still does have it. I can turn it up when I want to. But seriously, this is all about making sure that our state is prepared for the future. That's what this is about. As we've been talking about this campaign for governor, I've often said this is not about the 4 years of a governor's term. This is about the next 30 years of Florida's future and making sure we put in the policies and the cultural aspects remain in Florida so we can continue to build for the future of my children and your grandchildren. My wife doesn't want to have to get on a plane to see her grandkids. She wants them here in Florida. That's what she wants. And what Mrs. Donalds wants, Mrs. Donalds. Every husband's just looking at me and nodding their head. They're like, you said the right thing, sir. This guy's good. He's great at this. But look, I'm going to transition, and this is where I'm gonna leave you. The primary's in 6 days. In 83 days is the general election. Florida, once again, has to stand up to the radical left and say, no, you're not going to have power in Florida. Florida has to do that. And they're running this guy named David Jolly. David Jolly believes that it's okay for boys to be in girls' sports. He believes it today. Matter of fact, we put out an ad about it. He was so mad. He did this rant online. I don't know if anybody's seen this. It's actually kind of funny. He got so mad because I used his own words to tell the people of Florida that what he believes are the bedrock cultural foundations of our state, like only he and the crazy Democrats believe that, but nobody else does. Nobody else thinks it's okay to have boys competing against girls. That's called crazy. And in Florida, we stand up to crazy. This is a guy who said that Dr. Fauci had unimpeachable judgment. Yes, he did. This is what he said. And he backed it up with his beliefs and his movement. When Ron DeSantis opened up Florida, David Jolly left Florida and went to Pennsylvania. He said he didn't feel safe. So how does a guy who leaves Florida when everybody else in the country was tripping over themselves to come to Florida to be free, and that guy thinks he's going to be able to lead Florida into the future? The answer is hell no. Hell no. And he has other policies that are crazy, and in due time, we're going to unfold all of those. But this is the biggest piece of it overall. David Jolly believes that it's still okay to change the gender of kids. The AMA finally saw the light and said, you know what? This gender reassignment stuff for kids is dumb and we shouldn't do that. They finally figured it out. It took them 6 years to realize what science and human biology has known for all of eternity, as long as man's been walking the earth. You don't mess with the puberty of kids. You don't do it. David Jolly calls these culture wars. Well, let me be the first to tell Mr. Jolly something. If defending girls and defending the puberty of our kids is a culture war, then sign me up. Because we are going to protect our children in the great state of Florida. And by the way, it's not a culture war to stand up for what's right. That's defending culture. Defending culture is standing up for what is right and having the will and the courage to be very clear about what is going to be acceptable and what is not. And that's the position Florida is in today. And as your next governor, that will remain. But the last piece of this, we see what's happening in these other states with these Democrat socialist candidates. All over America, they're winning in these Democrat primaries. Folks, this Democrat primary and this Democrat Party is not the Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy. It is not. This is not the Democrat Party of people in our state, some of them who are still registered Democrats, long-standing registered Democrats, but they are conservative, and they know stupidity when they see it. And they look at the modern Democrat Party, and they say, I don't recognize this. I want no part of it. David Jolly is a Trojan horse for the Democrat Socialists of America. He's going to walk around Florida and sound very nice in a nice suit with a nice haircut. He's going to talk about believing and togetherness. But we've seen this before. Abigail Spanberger, who's now the governor of Virginia, she campaigned the same way. And then she got in, and she undid everything that Glenn Youngkin did to help Virginia succeed. She got rid of it all. David Jolly, every governor has appointments for judges in our state. Do you want the DSA appointing judges in Florida? Because David Jolly has already cut his deal with the Democrats. He's going to give them full control of that administration. The DSA will be appointing your judges. The DSA will be making your appointments. And if you don't believe me, look at what happened when Joe Biden became president of the United States. Because he ran like a moderate, but the radicals were running the White House. Folks, the choice in this election could not be starker. Are we going to protect Florida or let the Democrat Socialists run Florida? Are we going to stand up for liberty and human flourishing, or are we going to let the Democrats have an opportunity to make this state look like Virginia and New Jersey and New York? Because I don't know about you, but I am going to be standing with Wilton, with Chris, and with every other Republican up and down this state to make sure that the Democrat Party never gets a foothold in Florida. They can keep that mess in California. They can have Mamdani in New York. The complete stupidity of Chicago can stay in Chicago. But in Florida, we are going to continue to be the free state of Florida. God bless you, Pasco County. God bless you. You guys make sure you get out and vote. And God bless America.
Can't turn the swell off. The franchise doing big business. I live